Hey toy fans, Aaron here. Hope you're having a good night out there. Tonight, going to take a look at the vintage collection release of the Range Trooper. This is number 128 in the lineup, so let's head to the table and check this one out.
And a quick look at the packaging, and as I mentioned, this is the vintage collection, so that gets you the nice throwback to the original line from the 80s. The Star Wars Solo logo up top with the silver racetrack running around the sides. Then the background behind the Range Trooper, you do see the snowy scenery of Vandor 1. And just to note, this is just a little bit of a different backdrop than what we got with the Enfys Nest figure. Still all white and snowy, but just a little bit of a different mountain showing in the background. Of course, you got a nice image of the Range Trooper off on the right side, and then on the left, through that blister, you see the included figure. Nice little Kenner logo down there at the bottom. And on the back side, top right corner, you see he's number 128 in the lineup. Within the top half of the card, you see 5 other figures that are also available in the line, with that 6th image being the Range Trooper that you're already looking at here. And then off on the right is just a quick little write-up about the vintage collection line, celebrating the legacy of Star Wars. Looking at the figure out of the packaging, and first up, might as well do a side-by-side comparison with the basic 5-point articulated figure, and that basic release is on the right side of your screen. And really, for the most part, both of these figures are almost identical. With the vintage collection release, you're getting a dirtied up helmet. Also, that trench coat that he's wearing is also quite weathered as well. Lots of dirt on there, whereas the basic figure did not have any weathering on the helmet or the coat. Chest armor piece, you're getting just a little bit of scuff marks on the vintage collection. Down at the boot area, things kind of alternate here. You're getting a little bit better paint job, a little more weathering, if you will, with the basic release of the figure than what we got on the vintage collection version. So, a little odd there. Kind of would like to take the boots from the 5-point figure and slide it over to the vintage collection, but that's not going to happen. And the other noticeable difference, which is actually going to be accurate for the vintage collection release, is you're getting a much more accurate blaster rifle. And finally, it probably goes without saying that you're getting much more articulation with the vintage collection release. And now focusing in just on this figure, the helmet is looking quite accurate to how it looked in the movie. As I already mentioned, I like the weathering that they did apply to this. Through the eyes, you got a nice gold painting in there, staying well within the lines. Little bits of black painted on the face mask. As far as that fur sculpted around the shoulders, that is obviously hard plastic. I shouldn't say hard, it's still relatively soft, and as you'll see in a bit, it does still allow for some range of motion with that articulation in the shoulders. It is interesting that they didn't use some soft goods around this part, but I guess if I had to speculate, maybe they did that so that the figure fits in better with the basic version, the 5-point articulated one. I really don't know. For me, I guess I could go either way on that. It does still look good with its sculpted plastic. As far as the rest of the trench coat, nice dirt wash applied, and you can still make out some seams and various ruffles and folds sculpted within that plastic. And for the bottom part of that trench coat, this is a heavier piece of plastic, or I should say thicker, than that basic release. Gives more weight to the appearance of it. To me, it just makes it look a lot heavier, and something that looks much better as I look at the figure in comparison to the basic release. This backpack sculpted within the backside, sculpting to that is looking good. Interesting that there's not any other dirt wash applied to that, so it does stand out as this nice bright white clean piece. On each forearm you got this little comm system or whatever it is. I'm going to call it a comm system, but nice sculpting there. Just a touch of red and black on his right arm, and on that left arm no other special painting there, but I don't think that there needs to be either. I think that's pretty much all we got on the movie. For that white armor on the midsection, you get a couple little scrapes painted in there, or maybe it's dirt or something, whatever you want to call it. But for the most part, it is pretty nice and bright white. Little touches of red are painted on pretty good. And that blue down at the center, a touch off the mark, probably going to vary figure to figure. As we get into the legs of the figure, things are still looking pretty good here. Again, an accurate sculpt going on, and you got a couple different colors painted there also. You got some white for the uniform underneath, and just above that armor on the thigh, you have a little bit of a darker gray strap painted in there, and then that armor piece is just a little bit lighter in gray. Getting down to the boots, a little bit of a trouble area for me. As I already mentioned, you're not getting the nice painting that you had on the basic release, but you do still get some red and blue painted on the sides of the boot. But down at the feet itself, they don't sit right. As you can see, they're angled off the floor. I thought for a brief moment the legs were swapped or put on backwards, but with the way the sculpting of the boots, they're accurately sculpted, so they're definitely on the correct foot. So he still does stand pretty well, even though he's not, having a fully planted foot. But for looks, I would have liked to have seen that flattened off a bit. And as for articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so you're going to get your swiveling around. No problems there. Unfortunately, much like Enfys Nest, you're just not getting a lot of wiggling going on here, up and down, and really nothing side to side. Just this high plastic piece around the neck, this fur piece, is really hindering any movement. Otherwise, though, at the shoulder area, you know, again, because of this hard plastic, you're not going to swivel it way above or straight above his head. You know, it gives you enough give, I think, to get you what you might want out of this figure. Of course, you can bend them out straight. It's got enough give there to allow that to happen. As for the elbows, you can straighten it out, and you get about 90-degree bend there, along with your swiveling at that joint. His right hand is going to give you the up and down motion, just enough clearance in those sleeves to give it just a little bit of room. And that left hand is going to go side to side. You get your swiveling at the waist. As for the leg articulation, because of this long trench coat part here, you know, any kind of splits is just going to bounce right back on you. And because of this wider cod piece, you're not bringing the legs out. So he's really locked in this position pretty much. At the top of the thigh, you do have your rotation in there. At the knee, you got a single joint. And then, of course, you can keep the thigh keeps spinning with me. But there we go. You do get some rotation at that knee also, all the way around if you want. And then at the ankle area, that foot is going to go forward and back. And you get a little bit of rotation in there as well. As for accessories, as I mentioned, he does come with his blaster rifle, and what you're getting this time is a much more accurate looking rifle, both in color and in terms of the sculpt than what we got with the basic release. As you can see, you got some touches of black painted in there, with just a dot of red on the back side of that scope. And on the other side of the weapon, you get just a touch of red above the trigger of the blaster. The weapon does fit nicely in his right hand where he's got that trigger finger extended. So I think things are looking pretty good there. And, you know, I'm happy that they gave the correct weapon to this figure. So overall, this is a great looking figure. Not that there was really that much wrong with the basic release, other than the fact like it was a basic release. There wasn't a lot of articulation, and you had the wrong looking weapon. But that all gets fixed here. You get a little bit of weathering to the figure on the outer trench coat. So I do think this is a worthy upgrade from that release, and certainly worth picking up in this vintage collection line. And he still fits in quite nicely with that other figure. If you wanted to fill out, you know, a little army of these guys or use the playset, these figures are going to look pretty good together. Don't let this shot fool you. They both stand at equal height. This is just a little perspective that's making the vintage collection release look a little shorter, but they're definitely equal in height.
And that wraps up this look at the Range Trooper. I'd love to know what your thoughts are in this figure in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.